in our lives. We claim ourselves messy, imperfect, needing forgiveness, and needing to be reminded that Jesus loves us. And so we are here, because when we cut class, we never make as good a grade at school, right? You need to be up there on the front row. And so we are here to remind ourselves what our hearts know, but our heads sometimes forget and our bodies sometimes ignore. We are here because Jesus died for us, Jesus rose for us, and Jesus will come again. And we do know that we will sit beside him in this next life of ours. And so that's why we're here. I want to share with you my great love for justice. My great love for Jesus. And we read these two passages this morning, for I believe that those two things go together. I fell in love with the book of Deuteronomy when I was at Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary and had to do that hardcore required exegesis and read the whole thing in Hebrew, which is very painful, I must tell you. But in that, there's the short passage that we read today, and the Hebrew says, Jadak, Jadak, justice, justice. And the two words are put side by side to emphasize that the God of Jacob, Isaac, and Abraham, the God of Jesus Christ, our God, was calling the people of Israel to live by justice. And this was shortly before they moved in to take over the Promised Land. And really, if you can't have justice in the Promised Land, then you cannot have a good life. For a good life requires that there is fairness and equity, and that the marginalized are treated with the same compassion as those on the inner circle. And I took this passage to mean God's mandate for social justice. When you continue on with the prophets throughout the Old Testament, you see it again and again. Who does God send the prophets to declare? To care for the widow, the alien, the orphan, and the poor. Those four groups of people who in that time and culture, as then as today, were the marginalized ones who could not take care of themselves. In the patristic world, which meant that the man had it all right? When the man died, the woman was at the mercy of society, at the mercy of another family member who would benevolently take care of them, probably in a condescending way, because now there were these extra mouths to feed that really weren't mine. And so God said, no, you will care for the widow, the alien, the orphan, and the poor. And if you are not taking care of them in the court system with just judgments, then you are not taking care of them at all. And so what's this got to do with the gospel? What do we know about Jesus? Go and make disciples of all nations, teaching them all that I have commanded of you. And what we know of our Jesus is a God of love. And I would say to you the famous words that Cornel West once said, justice is what love looks like in public. We cannot love in public if we do not share compassion for the widow, the alien, the orphan, and the poor. It's easy to forget when our lives are okay that there are so many people's lives who are not okay, who do not receive justice, who do not receive compassion, who do not receive kindness. I have had the incredible privilege since last March of being a volunteer chaplain inside the Immigrant Family Detention Facility at Carnes City. It's 70 miles from my house in New Braunfels. It's probably about 95 miles from here. There are as many as 1,000 women and children incarcerated there. They are women and children who are seeking asylum in this country from the violence in their homelands, which are from the Northern Triangle, which means Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Those three nations fit together are smaller than the state of Oregon, where our son lives. When there's problems in your hometown and it's that small, there's no place to run. There's the highest violence in those three nations of any non-war nation in the world. The murder rate is the 5th highest in the world for a non-war country. It's not nice. And so these women, when they have nowhere else to go, they leave everything behind. What would it take in your own world for you to leave everything, knowing you will never see your mother, brother, sister, extra children that you leave at home because you cannot afford to bring them with you? You will probably never see them again, but you must go. What would it take you in your own life, if you were in a context such as that, for you to say, "Yeah, enough, nevoy, I go"? That's what these women and children are faced with. They are faced with it every day, and I wonder in their lives, what makes the difference that you decide to come, but you don't? You make the choice to leave, but you stay home. What does it take in these women? And so in my time, I do art as a ministry of presence, and because my Spanish is really, 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 really bad, emphasis on really, I started doing a guided art therapy process back and forth. So the women answer questions and they write down responses on the piece of paper, and then they do art over it. With their permission, I photograph their words with their permission, and I'm allowed to bring the photographed images home and translate them. And so very slowly, very painfully, with Google Translate and my own little, I can't find that word on Google. What does it mean? Sometimes I can't find it, so I just shout it out there and I come up with pictures, and I'm like, that's not what I wanted to see. So I have translated, at this point I have collected 1,600 digital documents on the stories of these women and children. And I have 500 that I have translated from Spanish. Let me just tell you, my Spanish is still bad, but it's getting better. And so what I have come to understand about these women and children is that their journey is one of faith, seeking asylum. They believe definitively in God the Creator, God the Redeemer, and God the Holy Spirit. They read the same Bible that we read. They believe in the same God that we worship. And they know that that God has good things planned for them. They know, and they write it all the way through their reflections and things that they'll say, is that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for my God is with me. They say that even though this horrible thing has happened, that God who's begun this thing in me will finish it. I trust in the name of the Lord our God. They believe that God has, as the prophet Jeremiah says for them, a hope and a future. That there is more than the pit that they have found themselves in, as we so often read in the laments and the Psalms. They know that God has good plans for them. Have you been anywhere in your life where you are in that pit and life stinks? Hello? We've all been there at some point in our life. And what helps us climb out is we trust in the name of the Lord God, and we know God has a plan for us. We know God has a hope. We know God has a future. And so we say, I will not wallow in this mess. And a lot of times we put ourselves in that own mess, don't we? We do it to ourselves. That is not the case with these women seeking asylum. I want to share some of their words about why they're coming here. He beat me. He threatened me with death. There are so many murders, extortion, violence, the things they do to women. Delinquency is everywhere. The police do nothing. We live in fear. When we leave the house in the morning to go to work, only God knows if we will return at night. I'm a mother. I don't want this. for my children. I might have put up with it for myself, but now I'm a mother. I do not want this life for my child. And so they pack up whatever they can carry, which means the clothing on their back. And they carry a small child. The average age of the women in this detention facility is about 22. I've met them who are 18, 19 with children. And occasionally I meet a middle-aged lady like me and we commiserate. But most of the time, they are very young women who are bringing very young children because they do not want their child to suffer. You often hear it said, well, they're illegal immigrants. They ain't illegal yet. Our U.S. government allows for anyone to seek asylum in this nation. When they cross the border, they have said the easiest thing is finding immigration. Thanks be to God, here I am. I want to seek asylum in this country of yours. This country which puts out to the world that we are the home of the brave, the land of the free, the place with equal opportunity where everyone has a chance for a future. That's what we put out in our PR from this nation, and then we're surprised when people show up and say, we want what you got. And so you'll also hear people say, oh, they just want a better life. You're right, they do. They want a better life, which qualifies as one thing. They want to live. For many of them have had direct death threats put on their life, and they've been given 24 hours to disappear. And when they are killed, then their child will be killed. Yes, they want a better life. They want the privilege of life. Jürgen Moltmann, the man is 90 years old, and he's still writing books. It's just stunning. His new book is about the livingness of God. And he writes that life thirsts for life. It is just the very fact that we are alive, that we long to continue to live. There is something that hangs on to this world, hangs on to the life that God has blessed us with. That is the life that these women and children are seeking for their children. So why us? Why here? What's this got to do with 4th of July weekend in this country? As I started, the connection between justice and Jesus, it's very tight. And love is what justice looks like in public. Joseph Cairns wrote a book on the ethics of immigration. And in it he said that we as a nation are culpable in the safety of these women and children, because if we send them back, they will be at risk for death. If we keep them here, they will not. About a year ago, when the Mission Presbytery meeting was in the Valley in Corpus, Sister Norma, a Roman Catholic sister who's very actively involved in the Cowan, spoke to the Immigration Task Force. And in it, what she said is, the women and children, the immigrants, they're here. They're here. It's like they have jumped out of the towering inferno of a burning building. You're going to send them back? Jump back in that building you just jumped out of? Or are we going to find a way in our nation to be welcoming, to be compassionate, to extend the love of God in Jesus Christ and simply say, bienvenidos, welcome, welcome to your home. The deportation rate for these women and children is 95%. As I go in and I share love and I offer encouragement and I read scriptures and we do art together, in my soul I know that 95% will be deported. We change that by our attitudes. We change that by how we vote. We change that by how we speak about immigrants seeking asylum. We change that in every response we make, about any joke made. We change that amongst our peers who then can change it amongst their peers and their peers. Don't we want to be a nation where freedom truly means freedom? For that is all of us were immigrants seeking asylum when we came here, somewhere way back, unless you're a Native American Indian, somewhere your ancestors came to this country. And when you read the history of immigration in our nation, it's stunning. The chunks that came, the chunks that came, the chunks. And every time there's a chunk, those of us who are already here say, well, you know, we got here first. We got here first, so take a number. Not quite now. We got here first. Grace was here. Let us be a welcoming nation. Let us share the love of God. So what is ours to do? Martin Luther King Jr. said of segregation, the church must take the lead in the social reform called segregation. The church must likewise take the lead in immigration reform. It will not happen at Washington. It is the most divisive topic you will ever get. One of my books and my research, they said, no one on any ticket will ever run and say, I will do immigration reform, because it's the kiss of death. You're just going down the tubes. We need to get involved. We need to understand the situation, become educated, end our indifference. No one in my family is affected by it. No one I know is going down the tubes with that. We need to learn about it. We need to end our indifference. And we need to get involved in some kind of capacity. Whatever that is, whatever your gifts are, there are things to do. This simple thing I do with the women, I make bracelets with them. I have different churches who will kit up the beads and have them all ready for me, and I bring them in. Simple little thing. And you think, oh, jewelry, what does that do? Well, when you're in with the women and they have absolutely nothing in their lives, nothing, no earrings, no anything, it gives them a small sense of agency that they can choose the color, they can choose the design, they can, for a few moments, forget the horror of their lives. Sister Denise has been coming in with me lately, twice a month, and we do a debrief on the phone now, because she drives to San Antonio and I drive back to New Braunfels, and it's, what did you notice? What one big thing of all this whole crazy day, what stood out about you? One thing that she said the bracelets. It seems like a simple little thing to us, a little bag of beads, a handful of beads. It probably costs 30 cents in cost of goods sold. It means the world to them. She said, I never realized how something so simple could make such a difference. And she spoke of one woman who came in dejected and just beyond able to communicate in any way, shape, or form. And she kind of took her beads and she kind of went off and sat in the corner with her child at the table and didn't engage with the other women. And she came back animated. Do you think I could have another bag of beads for my other child so I can make another bracelet? It's a simple thing. There are, if you go and you Google up immigration in Austin, you'll come up with a rash of agencies that are all involved in some kind of capacity. We're in South Texas. The immigrants are coming over at our border. As a community of faith, how can we not be involved? They are our neighbors. They are our brothers and our sisters, created in the image of God, male and female. They are from a different country with different issues, but they are very much our brothers and sisters. And so I'm just going to encourage us with what Leslie Newbegin, a major famous mission preacher, teacher, he said that the church must take the social reform as our witness to the Great Commission. For it is the Great Commission of go and make disciples of all nations, as we live our lives showing that we care enough to share the love tangibly in social injustice. We have that responsibility. He specified that our diverse responsibilities could be summed up as the church's new Trinitarian formula, which is justice, peace, and the integrity of creation. And he said, to the extent that we disregard that new Trinitarian formula, we disregard the very message of the gospel itself. And that was the gospel that Pastor Lee preached. The gospel of love, the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the gospel of caring for those on the margins, including the widow, the alien, immigrant, the orphan, and the poor. May we find it in our hearts to live as free people in a free nation and extend freedom to those who are seeking asylum from the violence in their homelands. May it be so for all of us. Amen.